One, two, three. Three, count, four.
Hello everyone, I am Be Better Gamer. Welcome to Be Better Gamer Wrestling, the channel dedicated to wrestling video games, fueled by my love, passion, and obsession for them. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I am bringing you another call in WWF WrestleMania 2000. It's October 2019. We are 20 years removed from WrestleMania 2000 debuting on the N64. So I thought it would be a very special entry if I made Andre the Giant, the 8th wonder of the world, one of the most legendary professional wrestlers to ever have existed, not just in the universe of WWE, but the entire world of professional wrestling. It doesn't get bigger, literally and figuratively, than Andre the Giant, and he fits very perfectly in the Aki games, being featured in a few of them outside of WrestleMania 2000, and I'll talk about that in a bit. So here we go. Attire: body size 6, and then skin tone 0. Ring attire default, which is 0, and keep it 0. This is a very basic outfit. We all know the classic one-arm singlet, which is number 48 for upper body, and keep it default as well. For head, I went with head shape 2, and again you keep the skin tone 0. Face, I went with face 46. Hair 12, the pompadour hair. They don't have the curly hair that's used in No Mercy, so pompadour is a good substitute. Hair 2. I went with short hair 34, and then I also gave him the sideburns, which is in the masks section, number 28. You can omit the sideburns if you want, but you know, he always had the sideburns. Feet 3, 0, 21 for the laces. I went with the dark black. And then for the second outfit, we just turned his singlet dark blue, a very rare variant. You saw him wear this a few times when he teamed with Haku when they were the Colossal Connection. A very rare dark blue variant. Here I went old school. I know Andre the Giant is probably old school to many people, but this is even more old school Andre the Giant. Give him the afro. Hair 7. You know, Andre the Giant had this big curly hair that, you know, when he grew it out, ended up, you know, looking kind of like an afro a little bit. And that's how he's represented in some of the older games as well. Ring attire, we give him with the dark blue for the first part of this old school outfit. And then the boots, dark red, so 23, and then 0 default on the laces. And then we just flip it here. We just flip it, ring attire, dark red, 23, and then the boots, blue. 24 and 0. If you were like me and you grew up knowing Andre the Giant from only being in WWF, you're probably looking at those outfits like, what is BBG doing? But no, you know, he had a very lengthy career before coming to the WWF, and he wore an outfit just like that. And sometimes even the colors vary. They weren't just blue. They, you know, he had also just short tights with black. There's even pictures of him wearing green. So he had a few other different attire. Again, another old school wrestler. So old school wrestlers, they always had very generic attire. It's very easy to make. That's it for the outfit, for the appearance. If you want the full call, if you want the moveset, the parameters, all that stuff, make sure you check in the description below. I'm going to have it all typed up in a nice spreadsheet. Link to that in the description below, as well as links to some of the other calls on my channel and other things I've made, so make sure you check that out. Leave a like, comment, subscribe. You've been on YouTube before. We're going to jump on a match, though. It's not over. It's not completely over. I'm going to jump into a match, talk a little bit about Andre the Giant, why I made him like I do for all my calls, and of course my opponent's going to be the Big Show, the other giant of professional wrestling, of modern day professional wrestling. Definitely the successor, if you will, the spiritual successor to Andre the Giant in WWE. What luck, I guess, for WWE to come across two giants fairly close to each other back to back. Obviously Big Show started out in WCW, where he was billed as the Giant, and even very briefly they were like, oh, he's the son of Andre the Giant, but it wasn't real. And Big Show even commented that he didn't like that. He didn't like being called the son of Andre the Giant because he thought it was disrespectful, because, you know, Andre the Giant was a legend and he didn't want to disrespect the legacy of Andre the Giant, who started wrestling back in the 60s. Andre the Giant had a very long career. Started wrestling in the 60s, and he was brought into pro wrestling because of his condition, his giantism, which another term for it, the medical term, would be acromegaly, which is the speeding up of the growth hormone that can be treated. It is treatable. Andre the Giant had the opportunity to treat it later on in his life, but he refused treatment. Big Show treated it very early, so that's what stopped the growth, the excess growth hormone for the Big Show, and he was able to just live a relatively normal life, being someone who's over 7 foot tall, just like Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant, I mean, how normal can you get, especially at that time, not just in the world of professional wrestling, but in the 60s, 70s. Think about how travel was back then. Think about how Andre the Giant spent almost every day on the road, traveling all around the country, all around the world. He was born in France, but he was a celebrity everywhere he went, and he couldn't just live a normal life, so obviously getting into some sort of entertainment business was beneficial for him, because he used his size as an advantage to have a career doing something that was worthy of his size and status. But that also meant a life of just always being in the public eye, not just because you're a famous professional wrestler, but you're the famous professional wrestler who's a giant, who's the eighth wonder of the world. There's a great documentary that was done recently by HBO about Andre the Giant, and you can find it on the WWE Network, and I actually rewatched it while I was making Andre the Giant in WrestleMania 2000, and it's really well done. There's a lot of stuff out there on Andre the Giant, obviously, but I really like the documentary because it talked about his legendary drinking stories, talked about his interaction with other pro wrestlers, and how he was a gentle giant. A lot of the stuff you have come to know probably about Andre the Giant if you followed WWE long enough, or if you followed pro wrestling long enough. But I liked how they highlighted also how life was for him, was for someone who was larger than life, who was always in the public eye, and how it made him sad sometimes. How people would dare to make fun of Andre the Giant, number one, but how it hurt his feelings because he only ever wanted to entertain. I grew up, when I started watching WWF, I was watching it when Andre the Giant was sort of in the twilight of his career. When he had that match with Hogan at WrestleMania 3, Andre the Giant already had invested decades in the professional wrestling business, and his body, his condition was wearing him down. He wasn't if you look at very early clips of Andre the Giant, he was a lot more agile. He was a lot faster in the ring. He could do some pretty impressive physical stuff, but by the time the Hogan match came around at WrestleMania 3, he was sort of a shell of his former self, and it really was a passing of the torch, because as popular as Hulk Hogan was, think about how as popular as Stone Cold was, or The Rock, or maybe John Cena now, Andre the Giant was like that, amplified, because he was popular all over the world, the beyond pro wrestling. He was, in a lot of the ways, the first crossover superstar of his generation. People came out to see Andre the Giant because they had never seen anyone who looked like that ever again, and they kept him very well protected. He almost never lost. If he lost, it was by countout or DQ, or shenanigans. And he was a babyface. He sold for the heels. He let people beat him up. If he liked you, if he liked you, he let you beat him up. And he sold for the heels. But it's interesting to think about how that was such an attraction, this man who was larger than life. You think about someone like the Big Show, who, Big Show it's impressive to see someone like the Big Show wrestling and doing the things he's able to do, but he wasn't really booked similarly to Andre the Giant, if we're being nice. You know what I mean? He didn't have sort of that, almost undamageable win record, and which is kind of interesting that they went in that direction. It's almost like by the time the Big Show came around, people weren't really all that just another giant, and you see it a lot. Think about all the other giants that have come and gone since Andre the Giant and since the Big Show. I mean, Big Show's still wrestling, but Great Khali and all these other people who don't really have that same allure, who don't really have that same magnetism that Andre the Giant was able to have back in the day. And I think he fits well in WrestleMania 2000. I talked about in my previous King Kong Bundy call, how I wish WWF No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000 had more unlockable characters who were legends. And he is unlockable in WWF No Mercy. He's a legend in that one. He's like one of the only legends. I mean, you can unlock Shawn Michaels and Mick Foley, but like really Andre the Giant is like the legend character because he was no longer alive when No Mercy came out. And he's also in the Virtual Wrestling part of the Aki series. He was in Virtual Wrestling 64, which came out before WrestleMania 2000, and then right after WrestleMania 2000 we got Virtual Wrestling 2 just a few months later, and he's an unlockable character in that one. So I always thought it was kind of weird because of the proximity between WrestleMania 2000 and Virtual Wrestling 2 that Andre the Giant wasn't included in the game, but then we would see him in No Mercy. So I'm just wondering, maybe they didn't think about it, maybe they didn't think about including him in WrestleMania 2000, maybe they couldn't get the rights, who knows, but he was ready to go. The moveset I have in this game is based off of his movesets in Virtual Wrestling 2 and No Mercy, with a few changes. I had to make his special the bear hug in this one, even though it's just a regular strong grapple in No Mercy. That's because the bear hug is a special finisher in this game. It's not a strong grapple, and they give him the Vader bomb in No Mercy, but the Vader bomb we don't get until Virtual Wrestling 2. And in Virtual Wrestling 2 he didn't do the Vader bomb, he did the slapjack. So I changed a few things, as I normally do with a lot of my CAWs. I try to make them similar to if they were in some of the previous Aki games. I try to make them similar, but I also like to give my own sort of interpretation of them from what I've seen, from what I've watched. And again, I grew up with Andre the Giant post WrestleMania 3, and a lot of my early memories of Andre the Giant, it was him being slammed by Hogan and then being in the tournament, and then later on coming back and having those crutches because again his condition was catching up to him and his health was failing. He passed away at a fairly young age, 47 years old I believe he was when he passed away. And it wasn't until later on in my life that I started going back and watching early Andre the Giant. And if you haven't really watched that, if you've never gone back and seen clips of Andre like in the 70s, Andre going to Japan and facing Inoki, Andre wrestling in the 70s in the territories, the different territories, wrestling in MSG, in early WWF. Go out of your way and watch that. They have some of that on the network. They do, but you can find a lot of it, just on YouTube. Just, classic Andre the Giant matches. He even fought Hogan a few times before WrestleMania 3. And, there's a lot of mythology surrounding Andre the Giant. A lot of people believe, he was slammed the first time at WrestleMania. And he wasn't slammed. He's been slammed before. Ricky Choshu slammed him. Inoki slammed him. Hogan slammed him before that. But that's WWE. They're really good at dispelling these rumors and these myths and like changing around sort of the history, because if it didn't happen before, it never happened. When he was heel against Hogan, they built it up like, oh, it's the first time he's heel, Andre's never been bad. But when he would go to Japan, he played the heel. So there's a lot of really cool things to find out about Andre the Giant if you've only ever seen Andre the Giant through that WWE filter, because again, if you grew up in like the late 80s, early 90s, you didn't really see Andre the Giant in his prime. You saw him at the tail end of his prime, and I really, really recommend you checking out a lot of his early stuff. It makes you wonder, if Andre, in the documentary they talk about Andre the Giant passing up on getting the, sort of hormone growth gland treated and prevented from spreading. He could have lived maybe a couple 20, 30 more years. I mean, Andre, I think the Big Show now is getting around to the age that Andre the Giant lived up to, and Big Show is in great condition. He's in great shape. He has to work out and exercise like normal people, like normal athletes. He just happens to have a lot more size and weight on him, but because he got the surgery that sort of reduced the acromegaly. I always say that wrong. he reduced it, he's going to be able to live a normal lifespan, if you will, because the condition isn't imposing on his skeletal structure. And it makes me wonder, like, imagine if Andre the Giant was still around, if he was in his 70s or something, and he got to be there and present the trophy for the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal to the Big Show. But that's why we have video games, because I think every video game that we have Andre the Giant in, we always do the fantasy of him against the Big Show or him against other giants, right? Or maybe Andre the Giant against Rey Mysterio. Imagine that. What would that have looked like if Rey came up during the time that Andre was around? But that's it for WrestleMania 2000. Hope you enjoy this call. I had a lot of fun making Andre the Giant. I feel like he just fits perfectly in this series. Let me know what you think. Check out my other stuff on my channel. You've been on YouTube. You know what to do. Until next time, keep watching all the wrestling.